Hello everyone. Now you will hear a brief retelling of the film, The Desert Flower. Its plot is based on real events. Waris Dirie is a 13-year-old shepherdess from Somalia. Her mother divided the tortilla into small pieces and distributed it to all the children. Waris promises his younger brother that he will never leave him alone. The story takes a leap into the future. An adult Waris wanders the streets of London, and then a fashion boutique comes in and collects a whole package of jewelry. And when a saleswoman approached her and threatened to call a security guard, she immediately ran away and disappeared into the toilet. In the booth, she looks at her passport with a smile. A tearful saleswoman burst into the toilet and again ran into a little girl who forgot to close. Waris knows literally a couple of words in English, rather even memorized phrases, even though he has been living here for 6 years. She is chasing an Englishwoman who ran into the elevator. Marilyn is trying to escape from a strange girl who for some reason persistently pursues her. Waris was left alone and finding a cardboard box was forced to spend the night in the open air. The girl picks up the change and eats from the trash. She saw her friend on the bus and followed her again. The girl took pity on the dirty, skinned Somali woman and allowed her to spend the night at her place for one night. But Marilyn lives in a boarding house and the administrator does not want to miss the homeless. The weather today is a sunny downpour, gives out another phrase Waris. Pushpa still agreed to let the slightest, just not to pee on the carpet. Grateful Waris kissed Pushpa's hand and called her mom. While Marilyn was sleeping, Waris cleaned the whole room and made coffee. The Englishwoman wrote an address where Waris can try to get a job and gave her a jacket. In the corridor, they ran into the manager Neil, who liked a girl with an exotic appearance. Waris got a job in a cafe. A visitor who was reading a book stared at her. He saw that the girl was putting the leftovers in her pocket. The stranger turned out to be a photographer, Terry Donaldson, and left his business card to a pretty African woman. Waris almost threw it away, but Terry asked her not to. The girl came back to the boarding house. This time she is ready to pay for the night by herself. Pushpa agreed when Waris called her mom again. She is shy about showing her body, so she undresses already in the shower stall. She is doing something incomprehensible there. Marilyn decided to make fun of her friend and stole her clothes. Waris cooks food and learns English. She doesn't know her date of birth, only that she was born during the rainy season. Neil looked into the room and began to roll up to the Somali woman. Marilyn dreams of becoming a dancer, but she received a letter with another refusal. To cheer up her friend, Waris agreed to go to a nightclub with her. There she met the eyes of some dark-skinned guy. Harold immediately approached to get acquainted with Waris Dahar Shartan Mukamar Suleimandareya, but you can just Waris. Her name means desert flower. Harold took off the girl's down jacket and offered to dance. The guy came from New York. Waris liked him, but she immediately got scared of something and ran away from the club. She can't go into the room. Marilyn is having fun with some guy there. A decent woman does not do this. A neighbor is reproached by the advancing Waris. Only a circumcised woman is a good woman, a Somali woman added. Marilyn does not understand what it is about and asks to show. Waris lowered her underpants. They cut everything off, and then sewed it. The Englishwoman asks with tears in her eyes. Waris was crippled when she was only 3 years old. The same thing was done to her sisters. Now it's clear why the neighbor spends so much time in the toilet. Marilyn shows her how it should be. You don't have to do that to be a woman. They don't do that to anyone here. Terry started talking to Waris again. According to him, the girl does not even suspect how beautiful she is. Waris wonders why her friend eats goat food. She shows Marilyn a business card. She immediately started up. Terry Donaldson is the most famous photographer and Waris will be able to earn a lot of money. Marilyn also has something to show her friend. Harold from the club left his address in case Waris turns out to be in New York. Joy was replaced by sadness. What will he say when he sees that she is different there? Suddenly Varia had a severe stomach ache and Marilyn brought her to the hospital. The gynecologist was extremely surprised when he saw how everything was arranged there for the girl and put down the tools. I can't return what was taken away from you, the doctor says, but I can make it so that it doesn't hurt you anymore. A nurse who speaks Somali was brought into the office. He needs to translate that she is too narrow there. An urgent operation is needed. She was painted by a real butcher. The doctor is surprised that she endured it for so long. The African says that she will betray her people and her tribe, disgrace her mother. Because of this, Waris just got up and left. Walking down the street, she stared at a woman in a hijab, who had only her eyes visible behind the fabric. We're going back in time. Waris complains to her mother that she has blood below and it hurts. It's good. She has become a woman. Soon she was brought to a yellow-toothed old man, who immediately began to pull his hands towards her. Tomorrow the girl will become his fourth wife. All that remains for Waris is to wipe away bitter tears. Nothing can be done for her, a lot has been paid. At night, the girl decided to run away to Mogadishu to her grandmother. She promises her brother that she will find him later and take him away. The mother did not stop her daughter, but the path through the rocky desert is not easy at all. Waris tore her feet into blood, but despite this, the next day she continued to go to the capital. When the girl saw the shrub, she immediately pounced on it and began to gnaw a branch. The poor creature cries and remembers her mother. Completely exhausted, Waris went to the highway, where she was picked up by a trucker. He tried to use it, but the girl rebuffed, or rather a stone on the head. After reaching Mogadishu, Waris found her grandmother and was finally able to eat. The woman believes that a child who has made such a difficult and dangerous path has a chance in this life, and there is nothing for her to come back. My grandmother is much richer than my mother, because she ran away to the desert to become the wife of an ordinary nomad. After thinking everything over, Waris returned to the hospital, where she underwent surgery. A friend came to visit her. Finally, Waris came to the studio of a famous photographer, and the first thing the girl asked me was how much you would pay me. She's going to live a better life. Terry Donaldson got to work. From each flash of the camera, Waris squints hard, but the photographer shows patience. He distracts her with conversations about family. Waris came to a modeling agency with a ready-made portfolio. After all, being a model is better than being a cleaner. But when asked if she can walk, Waris replied, "Of course." I reached Mogadishu. The girl put on high-heeled shoes and now walks on them as if on stilts. Lucinda doesn't understand why Waris is wearing this terrible bag. She's hiding something there, but what she definitely needs to hide is the scars on her legs. Lucinda paid Waris a taxi to come to the casting. Among the huge number of applicants, she has an advantage, since Donalds himself vouched for her. After a series of photo shoots, Lucinda promises Waris that she has a great future ahead of her. First Paris, then 2 companies in America. Meanwhile, Marilyn hoped to get a job in a dance studio, but she realized that she had no chance to compete with other dancers. Waris gives her a gift, an expensive watch from Gucci. For big shows, it's still worth learning to walk, which Waris did in the hallway of the hostel under the guidance of an Englishwoman. Suddenly, an angry Lucinda arrived at the boarding house and called Waris an illegal. The passport has been expired for 6 years. She is now being deported back to the desert. Suddenly Niall knelt down and offered Somaliki to marry him for the sake of papers, so her problem would be solved. But this was not required. Pushpa knows a person who will forge documents. Waris O'Sullivan is ready to go to Paris for a party with Johnny Depp, but right at the airport the girl was detained by the police. In the camera, the model recalls how her grandmother sent her to Angelia to get a job as a maid. The girl says goodbye to her homeland with tears in her eyes. After all, leaving her younger brother here. Because of the airport, she was brought to the embassy of Somalia, where she lives in a small room, a cage, and was busy cleaning all day. No one ever taught her English, so 6 years flew by. After this time, a coup d'etat took place in Somalia. The embassy staff is being recalled back to the country, but Waris is not going to return anywhere. She dug up a hidden passport and took to the streets of London. A bail was made for Waris, and all it was necessary to put one stamp within 6 months and the girl would have received political asylum, and now she has a limited residence permit. It should be noted every week, one violation and she will be deported. Ads featuring Waris are shown on billboards and large screens. Lucinda is angry, but she is sure that Waris will work out every penny of the £10,000 she spent on the best lawyer in London. Pushpa apologizes for setting up a Somali woman like that. Waris needs to work and she still decides to take an adventure by marriage. Neil promises not to molest the girl, but Marilyn clearly does not like this idea. Neil says they have to live together and also sleep in the same bed. They say the guys from the immigration service can come at any moment. It's time to work off the debt. There is a big team working in the studio, but when Terry came, he asked everyone to come out. For the calendar, Waris will have to be filmed naked. The girl obediently exposed herself. The photographer promises that if everything turns out well, it will change her life. Waris trusts a professional and it helped her to relax. She dreams of meeting Harold again, but in reality there is Neil, who calls her his wife, yells, runs over and gropes her. One night, immigration officers raided the apartment. They searched every room, and Neil took advantage of the moment and sucked on Waris' lips. She tells her friend that she would rather be deported to Somalia. She does not know how she will endure life with Neil for another year. Now she is still forced to sleep in the same bed with him. The Englishman is going crazy over the model. Soon Waris received a notice of indefinite residence permit. She thanked Neil and immediately took off the ring from her finger. Finally, Waris will be able to work safely around the world. She conquers the podiums of many countries and becomes a true professional in her field. The fashionista now lives in an expensive New York apartment and eats right. She remembered Gerald again and came to him at the specified address. The young man did not immediately recognize her updated. Well, and then Harold's girlfriend came up. Waris was confused and immediately ran away. Alas, a lot of time has passed. Her dreams have broken into reality. Lucinda is outraged that Waris gave up everything and went to Somalia to shoot a documentary about herself called The Day That Changed My Life. Returning to America, Waris gives an interview and says that this is not the day at all when she met photographer Donaldson. In general, she was tired of these stories, like from a nomad girl to a top model. Waris wants to tell a story and hope it gets published. Waris will remember the day when, at the age of 3, she went on a trip with her mother in the desert. They met with the same woman butcher who performed a monstrous operation with a dirty blade and a branch with thorns. The wound was infected. Everything that was cut off was pecked by birds. Gorell is sitting in a cafe and is indignant that he did not have time to understand anything when a girl came to him, and at that moment he went into the apartment with a neighbor. And then he saw in the magazine an interview with Waris from the tragedy of female circumcision. Waris herself is preparing to make a presentation at the headquarters. A friend came to support her, and Harold came here later. For more than 3,000 years, the family has been in Africa. They are convinced that the uncircumcised daughter is unclean. What is between the legs is unclean, which means it needs to be removed and sewn. On the wedding night, the groom takes a blade and makes an incision before penetrating the bride. Uncircumcised girls are expelled from the village and equated with prostitutes. This continues even though the procedure is not prescribed by the Quran. After it, the girls remain ill both physically and mentally for life. One sister, Waris, did not survive circumcision. She bled to death. The second died during childbirth and childhood. Waris did not want to be a woman. It is very painful and sad. But now she is proud that she has become who she is. 130 million women worldwide suffer from the effects of circumcision. Waris Dirie became the first woman to draw attention to this problem. In 1997, she was appointed UN ambassador to combat this terrible ritual. Since then, female circumcision has been banned in many other countries. But despite this, more than 6,000 girls are mutilated every day.